Welcome to the Randy Report. I'm Randy Slovacek, your host. I'm also the writer and editor of therandyreport.com, where you can find me every single day on the internet reporting on the daily news cycle in terms of politics, pop culture, and entertainment news of interest to the LGBTQ community and its allies. In this week's headlines, the Trevor Project has announced it will undergo layoffs and restructuring in a major transformation. LGBTQ entertainment critics have announced the nominees for the 2025 Dorian Film Awards. Out-country music star Orville Peck will make his Broadway debut in the current revival of CABARET this spring. Plus news of Laverne Cox's new comedy series Clean Slate in this episode of The Randy Report. The Trevor Project, a national LGBTQ youth suicide prevention and crisis intervention organization, has announced it will undergo a transformation that will include layoffs and restructuring. The timing of the announcement, just days before the start of the second Trump administration, has some staffers particularly concerned. The nonprofit CEO, James Black, told NBC News that the organization, which has around 600 employees, is in the midst of a perfect storm. A soaring number of crisis calls and messages from LGBTQ youths, an increasingly hostile political climate for LGBTQ rights, and a drop in individual donations. Like many LGBTQ advocacy groups, the Trevor Project is expecting the next 4 years to be challenging. Donald Trump leaned into anti-transgender rhetoric during his campaign and has promised to institute a number of policies targeting the community, including restrictions on transition-related care for minors and a ban on trans girls participating in women's sports. The project's financials show a 57% jump in year-over-year expenses when comparing 2022 to 2023, outpacing the nonprofit's revenue growth. James Black cited several reasons for that, including investments in research, advocacy, public education, and Trevor Space, its online community for LGBTQ young people, plus increased pay for direct services and crisis intervention staff, and the launch of its crisis services for LGBTQ youths in Mexico, which required hiring new staffers. Black also shared that aside from one large government grant, which can only be used to fund its work related to the government's 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, every other fundraising category, quote, came in under the budgeted revenue and has continued to decrease. Folks, the work the Trevor Project does is invaluable. So if you happen to have any funds to spare for an exceptionally worthy organization, please consider the Trevor Project. For more information about their work, head over to thetrevorproject.org. Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics, consisting of over 500 entertainment critics and journalists, announced the group's nominees for its 16th Dorian Film Awards. Full disclosure, folks, I am a proud voting member of Gallica. The Dorians are awarded to both mainstream and LGBTQ-centered content, celebrating what the group calls the expert Q+I on entertainment. Leading with an impressive 9 nominations this year is writer-director Jane Schoenbrun's thought-provoking horror tale, I Saw the TV Glow, a film overlooked by many other awards groups considering 2024's theatrical and digital releases. Demi Moore's thriller of a comeback, The Substance, was a close second with 8 Dorian nods. The transgender mobster musical Emilia Perez and tennis menage-a-trois drama Challengers each scored 6 nominations, and Dorian-nominated director Brady Corbett's artful epic, The Brutalist, makes more than good with 5 nominations. Other films with multiple nominations include Honora, Nickel Boys, and Wicked with 4 nods each, and Problemista and Queer scored 3 apiece. Head over to therandyreport.com for a full list of this year's nominees. The winners will be announced on Thursday, February 13th, along with the group's Timeless Star Career Achievement honoree. Out country music star Orville Peck will make his Broadway debut as the new MC in the current revival of CABARET this spring. The masked country star will begin his 16-week run on Monday, March 31st at the August Wilson Theater. Celebrating the news, the acclaimed out-recording artist said in a press statement, quote, "The MC has been my dream role since I was a teenager. The nature of the character allows for complete freedom of individual expression. It can be portrayed through such a vast range of emotions, perspectives, and performance styles. That kind of freedom is every actor's dream. I truly cannot believe I'm getting to make my Broadway debut in one of my favorite shows and in probably my favorite role of all musical theater." End quote. Peck trained as an actor at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art before appearing on London's West End in the Olivier Award-nominated Peter Pan Goes Wrong. Since then, he's taken the country music scene by storm with his albums Pony in 2019, Bronco in 2022, and Stampede in 2024. It remains a secret whether Peck will perform with or without his famous face mask. Earlier this year, Peck was honored at the GLAAD Media Awards with the Vito Russo Award for elevating LGBTQ visibility in country music. What to watch? Emmy-nominated actress Laverne Cox will be building bridges across generations in Clean Slate, a new comedy series executive produced by late TV legend Norman Lear, who developed such classic sitcoms as Sanford and Son, One Day at a Time, All in the Family, and The Jeffersons. The new series follows old-school, outspoken car wash owner Harry Slate, played by legendary comedian George Wallace, who is excited to welcome his estranged child home to Alabama after 2 decades. However, when his child returns as a determined, proud transgender woman named Desiree, played by Laverne Cox, he has to confront his deeply held beliefs and ways of doing things. In an interview with Entertainment Tonight, Laverne said, quote, "After being away for 23 years and, as she says in the pilot episode, being in really dysfunctional relationships with men, Desiree realizes she has to go back to the source of the first unavailable man in her life, and that's her father." The trailer indicates that while the series will treat its transgender character with respect, humor, and heart, it's not handling her transition with kid gloves. In one scene, Desiree is trying to redecorate her father's house when he mixes up her gender, saying, "This is my prized possession and it ain't going nowhere, son." Daughter, damn it. And Desiree snaps back, "Jar," prompting her father to put $1 in a jar labeled pronoun jar. The 8-episode season of Clean Slate begins airing on February 6th on Prime Video. And that brings me to the end of this episode of The Randy Report. If you enjoy catching up on LGBTQ news in a quick podcast, I'd appreciate it if you'd share it with your friends. I like to think of The Randy Report as the 60 minutes of gay news, only shorter. And remember, you can find me every single day on the internet at therandyreport.com, where I cover the daily news cycle in terms of politics, pop culture, and entertainment news of interest to the LGBTQ community and its allies. Thanks for listening, folks. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.